Hello, and welcome to Your Sparkly Brand. We're here to inspire and empower entrepreneurs like you. This podcast is all about delivering no fluff, high value content that helps you grow your business. It doesn't matter if you have no budget and are still DIYing everything on your own. We're giving you the tips, tools, and strategies you need to build a sparkly empire. I'm Lauren Tassi, your copywriter and launch strategist, and I'm joined by my co-host, marketing and branding expert, Megan Gersh. Hi, Megan.
Hey, I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today, Khadirah Muhammad. Khadirah is a systems implementation engineer and founder of succeedingwithsystems.com. She went from breaking into the entrepreneurial world at 18 with the goal of retiring her parents to falling in love with systems and automation to make a true business's world go round. Her notable projects include taking a client's two-person operation from $15,000 to $80,000 in revenue in 60 days. Now, Khadirah helps solopreneurs and those with small businesses create six-figure systems so that they can gain their time freedom and lifestyle freedom back and rekindle the joy in their businesses by using systems, automation, and technology. So welcome to the podcast, Khadirah. We're so excited to have you.
Me too. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you guys for allowing me to come on. And I'm glad for the conversation we're about to have. I'm very excited for it.
Me too. So before we jump into your story, we like to start each episode with our wins for the moment. We call it our sparkly moment of the week. It's like a little win, like, I decorated my office or something like that. Something that makes you feel sparkly. So Meg, what was your sparkly moment this week?
I've been preparing for this work retreat that I'm going on in a few weeks. And so it's been kind of exciting to just like treat myself and like buying the flights and like getting everything ready for that. And I've never done one of these before. So it's going to be like a small group of women that are meeting up in Arizona. And I'm just excited to like meet everybody and network with people and make some content. And yeah, I'm just getting kind of excited for it. So how about you?
Oh, yeah, that sounds like fun. So this isn't exactly business related, but it is kind of. I got a new car.
Yay!
My husband and I have been sharing a car for a year and a half now. And it's just, I don't really need one. I work from home. I go to the grocery store once a week. I'm that person, but it's been coming. So we have a new car. I'm leasing it. I think I can write some of it off as a business expense. And it just feels good. It feels like I'm sort of stepping into a new level of, who I am and where I'm at in my business.
I love that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Khadirah, do you have one that you want to share?
I do. I'm actually in the middle of hiring another assistant into the company, which I'm super excited for because it means we're growing and we're expanding. And one of the people I'm really excited about interviewing her because she's actually from my hometown, which I never hear of. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. So when she said she's from Toledo, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Super small world, same college, same everything. I'm like, how are we just not meeting? But that's amazing. So I'm super excited about that.
Well, we are representing Ohio here because I grew up in Cleveland. So
oh, please. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I'm about to go visit my aunt in November who lives in Cleveland now. I'm going to go over there and just stay with her for the weekend for her birthday.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Look at us
on the map.
All right. So let's get into it. Why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about your journey? How did you get into what you're doing today?
Oh, absolutely. So everything started with me back in college, about 18, 19 years old. I'm entering college. I had actually my first job ever in life. I was like a desk clerk at one of the dorms. I stayed there for like a week, worked it, was like, this is probably not going to work for me in terms of just having a job. And so I just started looking up how I can just do something on my own, started to go into digital marketing. And I just kind of stuck with that while I was in college. And when I was graduating, I was applying for, jobs probably 6 months before I graduated, all in kind of marketing areas. Nobody was calling me back. Nobody was trying to get an interview. I'm like, but I got this degree, so that's kind of crazy. But I didn't let that kind of discourage me. So I just decided, I'm just going to do marketing consulting. I'm going to start now, even before I graduate college, and just see if it works. And it did end up working. I paid my rent up for the year, and I just stuck with my consulting for a little bit since like 2019. And then in about 2020, 2021, I actually realized how much of a problem a lot of my clients would have with like just organizing structures, being able to take themselves out of the business, even though they were growing more business, even though they were making more revenue, they were hiring more, but they still struggled with it. And so I was starting to help them with their organization and putting in systems in their business. And I realized this was like a really big issue in a lot of people's companies. From there, I just kind of fell in love with it. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this moving forward because it's very valuable for pretty much anybody that's at any stage in their business, like being able to organize it so you can spend more time with your family, spend more time doing things that you love outside of business. It's really important.
Yeah, that's something that we talk about on the podcast all the time, like how like we both value like life is so important, and it's so important to like make space for that, like when you are running running a business, because there's so many people out there that let their businesses just run their life. And it's so crazy to me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's you end up kind of becoming, I mean, it becomes your job in the way that you really wouldn't like, because a lot of people are in business for their passion. And I quite frankly don't want to feel like my passion is just another job that I have to keep showing up for. I gotta do all these things and you're alone in it. You don't even have the benefit of necessarily having like coworkers or, somebody to kind of guide you and help you, because it's already created. You have to create yourself. That's a lot of pressure. It's one of the reasons people even stop, their business and close it down completely and might not even return to the thing that they were passionate about to begin with. It's just a sad thing. It's one of the reasons I wanted to teach people and help them in that way, because if I can help you be around your family more, that's a total win for me, because I'm all about it.
I love that. And so I know that the tech world is very male dominated. So as a woman, what types of challenges have you encountered, or has anything come up in that part of the business?
It does. It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm kind of in the middle of kind of coaching one of my clients' teams and being able to not just use the technology, but make sure it's helpful for them just as much as it's helpful for the CEO. One of the things that I run into is just the lack of empathy sometimes, and really understanding that, yes, you're a CEO, you're building a business, and you really care about the money side of things. Obviously, I mean, we're all in business to make money. That's nothing wrong with that. But as you're hiring people and as you're building teams and you're also trying to integrate technology at the same time, you have to realize how much what you're doing now affects everybody else. And as much as I'm a proponent for technology, if you can automate your way to doing whatever you need to do, that's great. But you also have to think about, how does this affect everybody else around you? And I come in with kind of this new mindset, and this a bit of a breath of fresh air is kind of the usual sentiment I get from people while I'm helping them with their tech, while I'm introducing new tech, because I'm always trying to think about how this is really beneficial for the person who's actually going to be using it every day. Because it's not going to be me. And quite frankly, if you're a CEO who's trying to just stay in the CEO role, you're probably not going to really use it every single day, or at least not with like the same intentionality. It comes up pretty often, but I think my new perspective really helps a lot of people, specifically the team members themselves.
I really like what you said about empathy, especially like when it is like a male CEO or something. Like, it's just, I mean, it's why I think we need like a woman president, is just someone who can feel what other people are going through. And so I love how you shared that. So I wanted to ask you, how did your background in engineering and working with systems help you break out as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a great question. So as an engineer, my thought process is always about, how can I solve this puzzle the quickest way and the correct way? And I really just kind of think about life as a just really one huge puzzle. And so if I know what the big picture is, and you already kind of have the pieces kind of already there, then actually figuring it out is a lot easier for me to do. In the beginning of me being an entrepreneur and me starting my own business, it was difficult because I didn't always have the big picture. I didn't always know what's the real vision. You kind of have like the things that you know that you want. I want to make more money. I want to make 10K a month. I want to do this. I want to be able to provide for my family. But if you don't have kind of the bigger vision, it was a little bit difficult for me, at least in the beginning. But when I realized kind of, I not only want to just take care of my family, but I specifically want to retire my parents, it kind of just guided me. And now I have this big picture. It's pretty much laid out for me, and I just focus on that. Then it's just gathering the right pieces, AKA who can I help? How can I help them? What's the way that I actually am able to help them? And this is what they actually want and need at the same time. And then from there, it just becomes a puzzle. And it's also how I help everybody else, because most of the entrepreneurs that I work with, they have like the vision. They know the big picture, what they're really focused on, what they want to create in this world, what they want to be known for. They have some semblance of pieces there, and it might be kind of put together a little bit, but they haven't finished the puzzle. And that's where I can come in. I'm like, oh, you just need to fill out the parameters here. My engineering brain just keeps working. And I just think about, how can I make this there? How can I help them accomplish what they want to have accomplished faster, easier, and as few steps as possible? It's really all the same when you kind of break it down to that level.
I love that so much. I'm very much, I feel like I so much resonate with like the approaching life as like a puzzle type thing, because I'm a designer. And so like I approach design in the same way. It's basically just like a visual solution to somebody's problem, like something that they're trying to achieve. So I totally understand what you're saying about like, it's like a math way of thinking, and you just like apply it to like, you know what I mean?
It's funny you say that, because I thought I might have wanted to be a designer when I was in college. So I took a couple of graphic design classes. I'm like, well, I don't have the talent. The concept though is actually really similar when you're like working for a client and they have this, I want this thing and I want it to look like this way. And it's never specific. abstract. They never get like real detail. It's never like really out of their mind. So you have to pull it out. You got to understand the picture for you. And then once you understand that, then you just create it. And they're like, this is like way better than I imagined.
Yep, exactly. So let's talk about succeeding with systems. So as the founder, how has your business challenged the status quo a bit?
It's a good question. So succeeding with systems isn't just the business end of things or the financial end. It's specifically actually helping people find the right systems in every facet of their life. So I didn't just want to come in like, we're just going to automate your business and you're just going to put technology together, or I'm just going to teach you how to build out a CRM for your business or something like that. Because initially I kind of did want to go that way. But when I took a step back, I'm like, well, everything in life, like down to your morning routine, that's just a system. Down to the fact that we're in a solar system inside of a universe that is very carefully crafted and everything moves a certain type of way and the earth rotates a certain type of way. Like it's all a process. It's all a set of tasks. And so I thought it doesn't help people to just only understand the business part, but they don't get assistance everywhere else in their life, health-wise, physically, even emotionally, psychologically. My desire is to bring on people who can teach on that level, because especially as entrepreneurs, we don't really learn about that, like the mental sides of it. I think we're getting to it more and more people are speaking out about it, and that's great, but we need more of it because this can be a very mentally draining process that you go through. Building a company, the sacrifices you make, the long hours, the hard work, it can truly take a really large toll on your mentality, your spirituality, whatever you believe in, and you're just yourself physically. And so I think that's what we are really bringing to people, that it's allowing them to have a community that can help them in all these areas, because we know you need help in all these areas, quite frankly, even if you don't want to say it.
So it sounds like you've overcome a lot of hurdles sort of every step along the way. What's some advice you'd give to someone who might be going through something similar?
I think the biggest hurdle I went through kind of in like my first couple of years was I would get a little bit of momentum and then everything would kind of stop at a certain point. You get like a client comes in or something bad happened or a client leaves or something like that happens and everything's going well. And then, oh no, contract has ended, client has left. Now I gotta have to repeat everything over and over again. And it's like this, you start, you stop, and you're kind of stuck, because the stuck part happens when you second guess yourself. You're like, am what I'm doing really helpful? Are people really getting value? Am I really helping my clients? How come I'm not getting more clients? How come everything is always at a standstill at a certain point? And the ways I've been able to get past that, and I think this would be extremely helpful for anybody listening, is taking the time to always recommit yourself to what you're doing, why you're doing. And if you need to clarify it more, then do that. But if you know exactly what you're doing and you have like the format and the framework, then you just keep doing that more and you start actually documenting what you're doing so you can hire people to help you in these areas you probably need more help in. And I'm specifically referring to like fulfillment, because this was my issue. I would get clients on, I do all this marketing, I'm talking, at that point I was like cold emailing, DMing people, and I would get my clients that way in the beginning. I would do that, get the client, work with the client, and then I stopped all the stuff that I did in the beginning because I'm busy working with the client. And then once that contract's done, I'm like, oh, I don't know what happened. How come there's nothing else happening? Because I stopped what I was doing in the beginning because I didn't have help, or I didn't have it automated the way it really needed to be automated. And so the earlier you can like have a very clear vision and a very clear map, and then also start hiring people as much as you can to make sure you don't lose that momentum. Because momentum is a very difficult thing to get back up once it's kind of lost. And that's where that stillness and that you feeling stuck kind of comes from. That's what I would say for sure.
Is there kind of like a balance that you recommend when it comes to like, I know you mentioned like hiring team, but also like automation? Like, is there like a balance there to be had for like, a lot of solopreneurs, like I'm sure some people listening to this don't have resources to hire team yet in their business. So like, is automation another way that they can go? Or do you recommend like having some kind of balance there?
That's a good question. I would actually change the word balance to a rhythm. I don't really believe in work-life balance because the balance assumes both sides are equal. And I just don't really think that happens like on an even regular basis in life. I think of it more as a rhythm, kind of like a song where all the instruments aren't playing at the same time. Nothing's necessarily being played at the exact same note, but the song itself is still very beautiful. And so to answer the question about like automation and team building, how do you navigate that? I think in the beginning for a new entrepreneur or just a solopreneur, I think you should try to look at if you can hire software. And I say hire because I'm not just saying go buy the software. I'm not just saying go pay $50 a month, $100 a month for what you think is be the end all be all because it looks really nice and it has nice reviews and it has a lot of testimony, which is what most of us tend to do because we think, okay, I'm just going to get it and it's going to work. That's not really what happens. You have to get the software, then you have to learn it if you're the person that has to implement it. And or you need to pay somebody or use the support team that they may have to help you implement it. So before you actually hire the software, you should study it, see if it really works, figure out exactly what you need to have happen first, actually. Like, what's the thing that needs to happen? Do you need your email marketing to be tighter? Do you need help scheduling your social media? Do you need help actually creating your social media? Like, what's that thing that needs to have happen? And first see if there's any software that does that right now and how much of it can it help you? Because no software is going to be like the end all be all, like all in one. It's going to do parts of it. And then other parts you really are just going to have, you're going to need a human person who can actually put it together or fulfill that last little gap. But my suggestion is to start with understanding what exactly you need. Then you want to do your research to see if there's any software that's already available that can do that either in full, doubtful, depending on how complex your ask is, either in full or in part. And then the other part of the software that it can't actually, the other part that the software can't actually fulfill, do you have the time to take care of that? And if you don't, now you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, what is a potential budget I could have to hire somebody? What are the realistic hours that I could hire somebody for? And if it's not right now, can you make a plan to actually hire them maybe in a few months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that looks like? And can you build towards that plan? This not only helps you have the clarity of figuring out kind of what do you do first, but if you are at a point where you can't really hire right now, if you can plan for it, it makes things a lot easier. And it becomes a little bit more real because then you also take some time to figure out who's like the ideal person that you want to have working for you. And it's not just I got to hire somebody now. I'm going to put out something on Facebook and I'm going to hire the first person who sends me a message. And then when they don't do what you want them to do because you didn't clarify what you wanted them to do, we can avoid all that if you kind of just follow the way I just said.
I love that. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about, like, I know that you primarily work with solopreneurs and small businesses. Is there something in particular that inspired you to work with those two groups?
Oh, absolutely. I think those are the most impactful for me in my life. When I look at the businesses that I personally spend my money with, when I look at the people who are really trying to help others. And I'm not saying bigger businesses aren't trying to help. I'm not trying to say that at all. But the small business owner is very passionate, usually about their family. That's like the most common reason why people want to make a lot of money, why they want to have a business, especially my women entrepreneurs. It gets very heartfelt because they want to help their children. They want to be able to assist their partners and their spouses. They want to be able to help their mothers and their fathers. In my very beginning, I used to help a lot of people in the healthcare world. And I used to help people who owned what are called home care agencies. So those are like agencies, they would send a nurse home to, an elder person's home and actually help them with bathing, cooking, scheduling, taking them to doctor's appointments, just being an aid. And when I would talk to the business owners who would own the agency, their number one reason that they would go into business is because they didn't have this service for their parents when their parents were alive. And that always gets me because it reminds me of my own grandmother. My grandmother, when she was alive prior to like 2011, she had cancer and she had liver cancer and it was gone for a while. It came back. And unfortunately, it was the reason why she passed away earlier than I think she should have. But we had an in-home nurse that would come and assist her while my aunt was working. And that was a small business owner who did that. And it's all about family to me. So anybody who's about that is kind of have my heart in that way. And I want to help you more to help you, help your people, help your daughter, help your son, help your children, help your sister, help. It makes me feel so much better because it's so direct. I can see the results right then and there.
That's so beautiful, just about where you sort of saw that coming to life in front of your eyes. Okay. So I've been like chomping at the bit to like get to these sort of more tactical questions. So let's talk about how we do all these great things. So what are like the 3 steps that businesses can do to automate their systems to save time and double their revenue?
Absolutely. You have to understand where you're at and what you're actually needing assistance with. So I covered this kind of briefly, but we were talking about like starting, stopping, and being stuck. But it sounds super simple. It sounds like archaic to some people. They're like, there's no tech involved with this stuff. And that's the point. point because most of us don't really know where we're at right now. And when I say you don't know where you're at, I'm talking about you're doing a lot of stuff. You know you need help. You haven't sat yourself down to figure out what is the very specific thing I need assistance with and why. We're doing a lot of stuff, we're doing a lot of activity, but we don't really know which of this do we need to outsource as quickly. And so you should first be doing an inventory on yourself. I have a journal that I write in almost every single day. And I write in, okay, this is what I did. This is what I accomplished for that day. These are the things I shouldn't have been doing. This is why I shouldn't have been doing those things. And when I review that after a week or 2 weeks, I can start to see, okay, now I know I probably shouldn't be doing my own email marketing because I'm not an email marketer, number one, and it's just taking too much time, but it's important. I need to know that I need to start hiring for this, or I can at least start documenting that process. The second step is the actual documentation of it. So that's writing out what you're doing. It's doing videos like these. It's recording yourself actually performing the task and getting it done. And so that way, now you have an SOP just in case the software can't handle it all for you. Because if you do need to hire somebody, you can't just, or at least you shouldn't. You can do what you want, but I suggest you shouldn't just hire somebody until you can tell them exactly, this is how we do this. This is how I currently schedule my social media. This is our branding guide on how we create graphics for our social media and everything. Once you do that, then number 3 is actually going through the hiring process. So now you know what you need help with. You actually have documentation on that. Through your own documentation, you'll see this seems kind of inefficient or this seems a little bit too much. You'll kind of refine it from there. And then from there, you can start to research. And when I say research, I really just mean like you can start Googling for yourself. What type of software do you really need? And what's the real goal of it as well? So an example of that, I'm going to keep with the email marketing side. If for whatever reason, you're just pasting emails into Gmail and BCCing it and doing it like that, you should now document how you're actually doing that, how you're crafting your emails, because that's still important. But then now we're going to look at, okay, what's the actual different types of software that can help me? And what's a specific thing that it can actually do for me? So there's ConvertKit, there's MailChimp, there's all these other types, but long-term, what should this actually be doing for me? And maybe ConvertKit is a little bit better because its workflows is a lot better because it allows for better looking landing pages that actually can help you out. That process gets people a lot farther than just getting a bunch of tech. Because you don't need me to tell you to just get tech, but you do need somebody that can help you actually document that process. That's the most important piece. The documentation is the most important piece of this all.
So I love that so much. I think that that's really, really helpful to have that kind of like 3-step process, just because like a lot of people just like have that, like, I know I need help, but like, you know, they just get stuck in the weeds of like just getting in this process of just doing things all the time and just like not really like thinking about, you know, like what they could be outsourcing.
Oh, absolutely. I have a client I'm working on right now who was in the same situation, but he kind of lucked out. When he reached out to us, he's like, I know I need help, but I don't know, I need somebody. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's get on a call. You came to the right person, at least for this. And we talked about a half hour and I realized, oh, your issue is it's too much back and forth with you booking appointments because you do sales calls, right? So you need to book appointments. Okay. But you're doing too much back and forth with DMing and inboxing. And it's not even just the calendar link. You are forgetting meetings as well. Your people are forgetting meetings. Nobody's getting any reminders about anything. And now they're all, even if they buy from you, they would get like a little confused as to why they would buy, which is why he would get high refunds or even chargebacks. It's not because he doesn't know what he's doing in terms of like the actual service, but he's not communicating enough with people about what's the actual service, what's the process of them receiving the service, and so on and so forth. Great salesperson, very bad at the kind of what he would consider the little part, but it's important because it's communication. And so when we took that step back, I said, okay, give me a couple weeks. We're going to build out for you a CRM. And in the CRM, you're going to have your own calendar. So we're going to be able to automatically book people on your calendar. We actually created an automatic email and text message campaign for when the leads came in, they would get directed exactly to where they need to go to book the calendar, get their information, apply and everything, show up for the calendar, have the Zoom link be sent out. And then even if they don't purchase, we actually created a follow-up sequence after that, giving them testimonials, reviews that the client had. We like crippled his business in like a few months, more than 2. It was a few months. And he stayed on that track ever since because he kept with the system. He kept with the process. A lot of people people want to get to that last part where it's like, okay, I want to get to the triple, I want to get to the tech. But it wasn't just the tech. I had to let him know this is where you're at and these are the problems that you're having right now. I mean, again, he looked out contacting us because I documented the whole thing. So his team can manage it from that point. And we don't have to just keep being there. But I cannot understate how people underestimate the power of just gaining clarity for themselves and writing stuff down. They can figure out where are you really at right now and what's the real issue. Most people don't really know what that real issue is. They just know it's an issue.
That's awesome. Do you have any other tips that you want to give listeners who are wanting to grow their business, but they're just feeling overwhelmed?
I have to just keep honing in on journaling. That has helped me mentally more than any software, quite frankly, because we do a lot. Again, if you're especially a solo entrepreneur and you're doing a lot of things and it's all in your head, that gets cramped very easily. And that's how you feel really overwhelmed. Or at least that's how I would feel really overwhelmed. When I just keep everything in my daily journaling and setting aside time to actually doing something like outside of business, you'll be amazed at how much that can help you in business because you just have to give yourself a break. Again, it's probably unexpected for people to listen to this and like, there's not a lot of tech into this. That's because tech is just a tool. I want you all to have the mindset and the right framework so that way you can really use tech without tech using you. You can use automation without feeling like you just bought a bunch of software and now you're paying $150 a month and you don't know exactly what's going on because you weren't really clear in the first place of what did you really want to have happen. Journaling, taking a break, taking time for yourself is extremely important to me.
I love that because it's so attainable for everyone, right? It doesn't matter where you're at in your business, but like you're saying, like you could have the fanciest software in the world, but if you don't know why and how you're going to use it, it's not going to help you at all.
Oh, absolutely. And then you're just, your bank account gets drafted every month and you're like, well, I bought the thing. And it's like, or you hired the person. That's the other thing too. I run into this a lot when I have clients and they've hired a virtual assistant and I talk to that assistant because I try to interview everybody on their team and they're like, well, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this, but I really haven't done anything. Or, I have a hard time understanding what the client really wants. They kind of just send me something, but there's no real direction because the client didn't take the time to actually figure out what is that role supposed to do? What are they in charge of? What's the documentation? How do they know that they're doing what you want in the right way that you want it to be done? And so now it's not just software. Now you have a person who really wants to help you, but they feel like they're not doing a good job because they don't really know what you want to have happen because you haven't really told them that. You just said, well, I need somebody to do my social media. And you just hired somebody and you didn't think through what's that supposed to look like for you? And how do they know they're being successful in their role?
This is like so helpful to kind of talk to you about just because like a bit about my background, like I've never had a corporate job. And so like when I like branched out to become an entrepreneur and take my business full time, like I didn't even know what an SOP was. I was like, what's an SOP? I've never seen that in my entire life. And so like this started to come up and I was just like, oh, that makes total sense to like actually have training materials where you can like refer somebody to and like teach somebody. It just seems like such a duh, like you're supposed to have that, but it's just like, I just never had it like in my career. It's crazy. So,
oh yeah, I don't think it comes natural to a lot of people because again, most people are like in this thing, you're good at what you're doing. And so like, okay, I'm cool. I can design, I can do email marketing, I can do this, I can do that. But it takes another level to actually be able to train somebody and like kind of think for that other person too. Cause that's a part of what you're doing when you're minting stuff, you're thinking for the next person that comes behind you and that does that task. And sometimes we don't get out of our own heads a lot. And so we're just like, well, I can do it. So why can't they just, I don't know why you're not just doing it. And it's like, what's wrong with everybody? I'm like, no, sweetie, it's not everybody. You just haven't taught them how to do anything. And so they can't do what you want them to do.
So this is my favorite question to ask anyone. And I am so excited to ask you this. What are your favorite tools that you use both for your business, your clients, and maybe even in your day-to-day life?
Oh, yes. So first thing, I absolutely love the CRM that I use. It's called Go High Level. I highly recommend it to anybody who, especially if you have like a marketing agency type thing, because then you can offer it to your own clients. Love it, live in it. Outside of my apartment, that's probably the one place I live in every day. The second thing is Asana. I do not know what I would do without it. That is a project management tool. I use that every day, even for little journal notes that I have for myself. I absolutely love it. And then the third thing is Slack. I do not like talking to people in email, so I try to avoid it as much as I can. I use Slack to talk to all my teams and even talk to some of my clients. It is the easiest thing. And I don't know what it is about the platform, less anxiety when I go into there versus email when it's just like 100 unread things like 7 a.m. in the morning. So those are my three favorites. I absolutely love.
I also wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this earlier about like tools for your life. I'm curious, like, have you created anything for your own life, like as an engineer that you use?
I can't say that I have, not at least not for my own sake. I used to, when I would do a lot more heavy coding, I would build like these little apps, but I don't even use those like kind of anymore. If anything, I know I keep repeating it, but my journal is probably my favorite like offline tool. If I had to do something, yeah, I love her. She's great, and she knows that she's great.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about like, do you have any upcoming projects that you're super excited about right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're coming out with a membership at Succeeding with Systems. Instead of just having kind of just one course or something for people to look at, I wanted to create a real community of people and teaching them how they can have a systems mind. So we're coming out with that membership. It's been on the rep, so this is actually my first place actually saying it in public. So I'm very excited about it. So that'll be out a couple months after this recording goes live. So everything, if you want to find out about it, it's at succeedingwithsystems.com. I'm very happy about putting that together.
Awesome. And other than the website, where can people follow you online?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Khadirahs Muhammad. You can also follow me on TikTok. You think Khadirahs Muhammad.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know both Meg and I are just like soaking it all up. And I'm sure when this episode goes out, like our listeners will be too, because like everything you've shared is so valuable.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited about when everybody gets to hear this.
Awesome. Well, and then I also want to say thank you to our listeners for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay sparkly.